everybody. So we're here still self-isolating, and there was a good deal at the store on cabbages, and I already had a bunch of frozen ground meat in the freezer, and we have rice, so I figured why not make cabbage rolls. Cabbage rolls are delicious, and they're a good way to use up your pre-cooked rice and ground meat.
And we've had like rice 3 meals in a row, so we have a lot of extra rice.
Extra rice, and they are pretty easy to make, and they freeze really well. So I'm going to start right now.
We got 2 giant cabbages. Walmart always either has tiny cabbages or absurdly large cabbages.
These aren't even that huge for
sometimes they're like twice this size.
So bigger cabbages are good for this because you're using the cabbage to wrap up the fillings. Please pardon our dirty dishes in the sink. I am going to leave these. Normally I would take these big outer leaves off, and I might take 1 or 2 of them off anyway. But you really want to leave sort of the sadder looking leaves on, because first thing we're going to do is boil the leaves to make them pliable. I need a paring knife. They are not in our knife block. Don't stab your hand. Protect. The recipe that I've been using is from the Kachka cookbook, which is most excellent if you like Russian type food.
And Kachka is a restaurant in Portland, Oregon.
And they are excellent. We've eaten there once, and it was a delight. So it doesn't say to do this in the cookbook, but I saw it in a different YouTube video. I think it was with Jenny Cooks or something. And it helps if you core your cabbage to start, because then it can get that hot water in between the layers a little bit, and they can so you can see I just sort of did, it's a pentagon. And there's going to be a little bit of cabbage core in there. That's totally fine, but then the hot water will sort of permeate that surface. And actually I'm going to save some of these leaves, because all of another nice thing about this dish is that it doesn't have very much waste. You can use a lot of the pieces that normally you would think that's just not working, and you chop them up and trim them up and throw them in the sauce. So I got a big stock pot right over here. Should I get the smaller stock pot?
No, just use this one.
It's a big one. So put that in there.
Because are you doing both of them?
I was going to do both of them.
Yeah, so do
Yeah.
the big stock pot.
And once I have both of these all poured up, I am going to fill up that pot with water so it is covering the cabbages, and put it on to boil for about get it to a rolling boil, and then leave it for 10 to 15 minutes. Something you should know that I always forget: cabbages float. So when you're trying to cover a cabbage, it's gonna take a while. I put in enough water that when you shove them down to the bottom of the pot, they should be covered by like ½ inch of water. While the water is boiling with our cabbages in it, we're waiting for that to get to a rolling boil. I figured, why don't we prep the veggies for the sauce? I am like doubling up on the veggies, because why not? It's a good way to actually get more vegetables into you. We need our nutrients in these trying times. So it said in the recipe for 1 medium carrot. I'm doing 2 because carrots are delicious. And you do them through a box grater. It's basically, I've already peeled these, by the way.
And watch your fingers.
Yes. Movie magic. Use a box grater, that means they'll basically disintegrate into the sauce. Alright. I'm going to try not to actually skin my fingers during this. And I go a little overboard trying to make sure there's no waste, but a nubbin like this get it in your vegetable garbage bag that you can use for making broth at another time. So let me do the other one.
Mm-hmm.
This recipe also calls for 2 cloves of garlic. That is not enough garlic. So I got like 2 big cloves, and then you know how the center of your head of garlic gets like weird and they're misshapen tiny cloves? We're just doing all those. Because why not? Throw them all in there. More garlic never hurt anybody, and it means that, unless you're allergic to something, then omit the garlic. But it also means then, if vampires come a knocking, you are prepared. Alright, so I'm going to put that in the sink. This is in my garbage bag. We have all of these lovely garlic cloves, and I'm not going to be crazy exact about this, because again, you just want them small. My knife technique is not awesome, so pardon, don't slice yourself. There's some of that. We will go back and make those smaller. Gordon Ramsay would be ashamed of me, but it's okay. He's not in my house. Actually, fun tip. If you actually want to learn fun cooking stuff, Gordon Ramsay at what are they? The Ultimate Cookery Course?
Yeah, Ultimate Cookery Course or Cooking at Home.
I know lots of people are familiar with him. At Home with Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah.
A lot of people are familiar with him through things like
Kitchen Nightmares.
And Hell's Kitchen and all those things where he's yelling at everybody. And he is actually quite lovely and nurturing in these cooking courses, especially the Gordon Ramsay at Home, because he's talking to his kids. So he's not going to scream at his kids on television, which I think is a lovely change of pace.
He just makes fun of his daughters for having boyfriends. They're like 12, so it's kind of adorable.
It's very, very cute. So I'm going to munch this up. I would use a garlic press normally, but apparently, since I started going to the gym, I don't know my own strength. And at one point, I broke three garlic presses in 2 weeks. So, no garlic presses for me. I mean, I would love one, but I need one that can
withstand your brute strength.
Exactly. Strong like bull. It's a shame. I love what garlic presses do as far as the texture, but I just can't afford them. I can't afford to keep breaking those. All right, so that all goes in the bowl. Next, we are going to do some onions. And the onions just need to be cut into thin half moons. These onions were disturbingly difficult to peel. But we're just going to... Actually, I'm doing them against the grain right now. Like, here's the top of the onion and here's the root. Mm-hmm. Keep your roots on, people. But a way to prevent quite as much crying is to actually cut with the grain. And if you do a nice slicing action like that, it causes less wear and tear on the onion's cell membranes. So you don't cry as much. But this one I'm not doing so bad anyway. So it says little half moons. Obviously not all of it's going to be half moons. And I'm doing, I guess this is like 5 millimeters.
I don't know. Quarter of an inch? Eighth of an inch?
Eighth of an inch. Mm-hmm. We're in America. What am I talking millimeters? So it said 1 medium onion, and I am doing 2. Because onions are delicious. Onions are one of those foods where if people don't know you and they walk into your house and you're sauteing an onion, they say, "Oh my God, it smells amazing. What are you cooking?" And you're like, "Nothing. It's onions." But thank you. So, how to pretend you're a good cook and actually make decent food. You start with the pretending, then you move on to actually eating. So, I am going to cut this down to a little nubbin, and then this root bit can go in the garbage bin. I am actually going to skip ahead to doing some cabbage. And you want them to be about the same size as your onion half moons. These are going to be, these are the nicer looking leaves that I got rid of at the beginning. But you're also going to do this with the trimmings of your cabbage, and the very center of the cabbage. It's going to be too hard both too hard to peel and too small to make your rolls. And we'll show you what that looks like later. But I figured while I have it on my board, let's just take care of this and put it in the bowl au sturf to be sauteed. So yeah, shred it up, nothing too big. It's all going to get cooked down anyway. It's just adding bulk to your sauce. The other ingredients that you will need include 2 28-ounce cans of crushed tomatoes. We are actually using petite diced because I prefer the texture of those. Or I guess Ben really does. He likes diced tomatoes. I like crushed tomatoes. So we go for the middle ground of petite dice. You could also use, I suppose you could use canned whole tomatoes
and just crush
and
them
smush
down.
them down, because those I've had very good results with those with different tomato sauces. So 2 big cans of those and 1 can of, she calls for 1 cup of lingonberry jam. I do not live near an IKEA.
And they're closed now anyway.
They're closed now anyway. So we got cranberry sauce. It'll do okay. We've done it before. It tastes delicious.
Mm-hmm.
You just need a little bit of sweetness in there. And put some water in there. But we'll come to that later. The timer has just gone off. It's been 15 minutes with these puppies. Turn off the boiling water. We've got a wooden spoon that will not burn. And then we're going to fish these puppies out and put them in this lovely colander with a bowl underneath it that I have prepared ahead of time. Okay, so there's one. And ideally, you should flip them so that that core bit should be on the bottom so it can drain out. Because right now, they're full of boiling water. But that's what we got.
Mm-hmm.
I love this spider. It's one of my favorite tools. Alright. There's the other one. There are 3 rando leaves in here. See, they become lovely and soft and pliable. And now what I'm going to do is leave them alone for a few minutes. And I'll probably come back in 5-10 minutes when they have stopped steaming. These have cooled down. I can touch them without scalding myself, which is great. I've already peeled off some of the outer layers, and you can see this is not going to form a lovely little package like we want it to. So we say goodbye and we put it on the cutting board where it can be sacrificed to the sauce gods. We'll do the same thing that we did with the raw cabbage leaves before. But this one, for example, this looks like it could do a pretty good job of wrapping up some delicious filling. The problem being, you want it to be able to lie as flat as possible. These spines in the middle are a little thick. So you trim them down. You put the spiny bits on the board. Those go into the sauce. And you're going to form a lovely little pile of wrappers. So we're very carefully going to ease open all of these lovely cooked layers. Now we have like a little lettuce cup, but boiled. Mm-hmm. And once we have done that, sorted out leaves and set, I'm going to trim those again later, but I mostly want to get through all of this cabbage. Once that is done, I'm going to go ahead and shred everything else up, and then I'll get started on the sauce. I have finished trimming all the cabbage leaves, which are over there on the table. I used 2 medium-ish cabbages. You can use 1 big cabbage. I actually recommend 1 big cabbage if they didn't have any cabbages big enough for my needs. So I got 2. That means you have a lot of extra trim pieces. You should keep peeling the head of cabbage until you get to a level where the leaves aren't really flexible anymore, because then they're going to fall apart when you wrap with them. So at that, it's usually around the point where it's about the size of like a baseball or a softball. And at that point, just chop it all up. This is why I put in more onions and carrots, because I'm like, otherwise this is all cabbage all the time. We are going to saute this up. I have a crappy stove, so I would start with more of a medium-high heat than a high heat. But because our stove is not very hot, you gotta go high. This is just vegetable oil. Put in enough so that it all coats the bottom. And this is just a basic Dutch oven, but you can use any pot that you think will give you enough room for your veggies to saute and then be able to add your wet ingredients. So we're going to wait for this to get hot and sort of shimmer. And then we are dumping all those vegetables that we cut up before. We got our carrots, onions, cabbage, obviously, garlic. Do I have anything else in there?
I don't think so.
I think that's it. So once this gets hot, I'm going to hit the pan until they're going to cook for about, they say in the book, about 10 minutes until the onions are translucent. And it doesn't say to in the book, but I would say put in some salt and pepper. Especially this sauce tends to go on the sweet side, so do not be afraid to put salt in. There was a cooking book that we had that had the lovely instruction, not for this, but just for everything in the book, that was salt it like you're salting a road. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where you want to go with this one. All right.
Just throw a little piece of onion and see if it sizzles.
And that would be a logical thing to do.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
It's sizzling.
It's sizzling.
Okay, so I'm starting with the mostly non-cabbage veggies because the cabbage is already partially cooked. So I would rather get the onions and carrots cooked up first. And we have, it's just kosher salt. It's nice because it's easier to grab, and you ultimately end up putting in less salt in your dish. So salt is also helpful in this instant because it helps release moisture from these vegetables. And cabbage in particular, cabbage and onion, are basically water bombs. So you want to release that water a little bit. So once I got this going down a bit, I'm going to throw in the other stuff.
It smells delicious already.
Thanks, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's so nice.
It's the frying garlic and onions, like you said before.
Yeah, it's just a recipe for people thinking you're an awesome cook, even when you've done basically nothing. Like, we haven't even gotten to the interesting part yet.
Already did salt.
I know I already did salt. I'm doing a little more salt because I'm going to throw in more cabbage. Okay. And like I said, you need the salt to release the water. Mm-hmm. That's mostly what this step is doing. It's sort of concentrating, adding color, concentrating the flavor, and releasing excess water before we put in the tomatoes. Mm-hmm. So, it's a lot of veggies, but I really like veggies. And we're actually doing a relatively healthy version of this dish anyway with our filling meat. The recipe calls for, this is a lot. The recipe calls for 1/2 pound each of lamb, pork, and beef. But we're not doing that because
lamb and beef are expensive.
Lamb and beef are more expensive. And I had a bunch of ground turkey in the freezer. And if it's mixed all together with rice anyway, who's gonna know? It is a not lean ground beef. It's
ground turkey.
Sorry, not ground beef, ground turkey. It is a 85% lean, 15% fat, which for turkey is high fat, but fat is a flavor carrier. So I'm not too, and the fattiest turkey that you're going to get is still pretty darn lean. So I'm not super concerned. It's also going to cook down. Like, it's not that big of a concern for me. If that's a pretty lean, if 85-15 is a pretty lean ground beef, like, it's just the same, you know? It's not a big deal. It is possible, I should say, to make a vegan version of this. I have never done it, but it includes, you put in...
Is it mushrooms?
Mushrooms, more garlic, some herbs and spices. I can read you the ingredients. It's been about 10 minutes, and our veggies have reduced quite a bit. I added some black pepper too, which is not in the recipe. It's just what I like, even though I'm slightly allergic to it. Don't see me. I like flavor. So here we have our large, this is the 20-ounce cans of tomatoes.
28 ounce.
I said 28, didn't I?
It sounded like you said 20, but whatever.
No, 28.
28.
2-8. And we have 2 cans of those. I'm gonna stir this in a little bit. I looked up the vegan filling, and it is double the onions, so 2 onions like I did. About 8 mushrooms, and garlic, salt and pepper, and the rice. The same amount of rice that we're doing before. So for the other filling. So it's mostly you need more onions to bulk it up. You'll still have your cabbage and your... Oh no, that's for the cabbage goes in the sauce. So for the filling, you'll just be using mushrooms, garlic, and rice. Which, if you like mushrooms, I'm sure is delicious. But I do not. So enjoy it without me. I'm not opposed to vegan food. I'm just not making it this time. Alright. Can number 2. We also need a half a cup of water, so I'm going to run over to the sink. But I'm not being exact in this measurement of a half a cup of water because it's all going to just boil down anyway. A little extra liquidity. So yeah, it's going to look weird and jellyish, but it'll melt. Come on, get out of there. What's up, buddy? You need books?
You got your books?
Our son Isaac is saying hello. He just got up from his nap, so he's a little bit cranky. So what I'm going to do for this is try and break up those cranberries, bring it up to a boil, and then bring it down to a healthy simmer for 20 or so minutes, just so all those flavors can get to know each other and be happy that they're in the same delicious club. All right, everybody, so the next part we have is the filling. Hi, bud. He's helping. I have 1 pound here of non-lean ground turkey. Underneath that is half a pound of ground pork. And then roughly 2 cups of cooked white rice. I probably went overboard with the cooked white rice, but a little extra bulk never hurt anybody. There's also about a tablespoon of salt in there, and a healthy dash of black pepper, which it didn't say to do in the recipe, but I'm doing that. So I'm going to mush this all together, and then we're going to assemble them. It said to do this in a stand mixer with a paddle attachment, but they also said that would take about 30 seconds, and that seems like I'd have to do more time cleaning than actually using the stand mixer, and that seems just silly to me. The point is we want it very well combined, everything sort of goopy and together. And yes, it's a little bit more work to do it by hand, but I don't mind. I make a lot of pot stickers, and so that's why I got the gloves, because I don't like the feeling of cold raw meat on my fingers. That's just me, but I have to do it a lot, so I figure might as well keep it a little bit more sanitary and get some food grade disposable gloves. Do not just use any random gardening gloves or something. Go for the food grade stuff, because it doesn't have powder or anything in there that's going to get into your food. I guess while I'm doing this, we could say, what are you guys watching while you're stuck at home during COVID-19 pandemic? Mm-hmm. We are going to do an official recommendation from Art House as far as television enjoyment. It just dropped yesterday on Netflix. We've only seen 2 episodes, but we are super excited about Tiger King, which is a documentary about Joe Exotic, the owner of the most privately owned tigers in America, and I think the world. And he's in jail now. So
for a murder for hire.
Murder for hire, because apparently exotic pets people in general, like zoo type exotic pets people, are nuts, and big cat people are the nuttest. So
we're talking cults and
polygamy and just murder for hire plots. Like, it's a lot. We have gotten to the point where everything comes together. We're going to be making the actual rolls. Got a plate of semi-finished ones over here. At least they're the rolled up ones. I've got my homogeneous rice and meat mix. You take your leaf cup side this away. You're gonna grab about 1/3 of a cup of rice. Go small rather than big. So put it towards the base of your leaf. I like to we're doing burrito style. So the main goal is you want it tight and compact. You want a little package. So I'm gonna take the bottom of this leaf, roll it up over the top, and sort of drag it back. Then you fold the sides in and roll it up until you get a nice little cigar. And normally when I have about 4 of these, I would start frying them up. I have a pan with some oil heating on the stove, but I'm going to do one more to sort of demonstrate 1 or 2 more to demonstrate the technique of rolling, because I feel like that's the part people get nervous about, even though there's nothing to be nervous about. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. That's maybe a little bit big, but so we got our lettuce cup, spine up over the top, drag it back a bit. That helps everything sort of stick together. That's the key for me, is to do the little drag back. Then we fold the sides in and roll it up, and you leave your seams on the bottom. And look, because it's a little bit damp, it's actually sticking together very nicely. This is why I like to do 1 large cabbage instead of 2 medium ones, because you get nice big leaves. You can do a little bit more. So like this one, I'm even sort of on the nervous side about, is it gonna be big enough? But it's fine. It all gets cooked up in a stew basically. So I got my side leaves rolled up. All right, so now we're going to, now that we've rolled a couple and we've got our sauce ready, it looks nice and thick and full of delicious vegetables, which are gonna make us healthy and strong. So it's said to take about 1/3 and put this on the bottom, but I am not. I'm gonna put in enough to make a nice healthy layer on the bottom. Hey kiddo, don't burn your face off. So if you wanna bring the camera over here, you can see we are smooshing down a layer of cabbageness. In addition to that, I have preheated the oven to 425 degrees. Then I've got this all prepped over here. We've got some nice hot oil. We're gonna put our little rolls seam side down in the pan. And this seals them, but mostly it adds a nice sear on the outside and color equals flavor. So don't be afraid to get pretty intense with the searing if you can. Brown them on all sides. Once that is done, they go into the prepped lasagna pan. And the reason that I didn't use a reusable pan is then I can freeze them. Once they are all assembled, you can freeze them and then you just reheat them. And they're a nice freezer meal. Some progress on the color of our roll. This one's got a nice, beautiful like, constellation of yumminess. And you know, it's hard. It's lettuce. It doesn't want to behave as far as searing itself up.
Don't worry about it too much.
As long as you've got some color.
Yeah. It's all cooking in the
It all cooks in the sauce anyway. But you know, it's a nice extra touch, and it does sort of seal it shut. I'm going to take this one, for example. I think this one's maybe good to go. And put it in the pan. Ooh, yeah, look at that. Yum. All right, so we're taking this over here, and we nestle it down in the sauce. And I'm going to do like 2 rows in there. And then once that's done, because I have 2 of these pans, I'm going to actually cover the top with sauce. And that will be, so it ends up sort of stewing in the sauce and being all nice and yum. Are there any recipes that you guys recommend when you're stuck in self-isolation?
Share in the comments.
Share in the comments below. I really hope people like this because I've been having fun making this. All right, so we got 2 trays full of cabbage rolls. Just cram those suckers in there. We had a couple of extra leaves, and I'm just I've divided the remaining sauce. We are putting it over the top. Squoosh it down there. We're gonna squoosh this around, and because I've got these extra leaves, might as well use them and sort of toss them on the top there. I know some people use like whole leaves and like drape it over the whole thing, but we're not that fancy. All right, so these are going to go into the oven for, I think like 10, 20 minutes. I forgot, this is the cookbook, by the way. Highly recommend it. It is a wonderful, oh, hi. I'm getting a behind the knees hug. You're good. I'm going to pick you up in a second though, honey. That is Isaac. He is a delight.
Isaac, say hi to the camera.
Can you say hi? I love, he has a picture of the dog and the actual dog in front of him. Uh-oh. We're going to bake it for an hour. And then reduce the heat and bake for another 3 hours. For the vegan ones, you only need to reduce it to 350 and then bake it for 1 to 2 hours. But for the meat ones, we're going to bake it for 3 hours to let it simmer on through. It's really yummy. Let's get these puppies in the oven. I think we're also supposed to put like tinfoil on the top. Tuck those puppies in. Take a nice one. Oh, you have a ball? Do you love playing with balls? Yeah. Hi, cutie. Ball. Do you have a ball? Maybe after we put these in the oven, we can go outside. It's been pretty nice today. Whoa, got toasted. All right, so we're going to tuck those in for an hour. And then reduce the heat later. So, we started this tutorial a few days ago. We made our cabbage rolls, but we have been making other things. And now neither of us wanted to cook this evening, so we already had cabbage rolls, and that was pretty excellent. We are gonna do a little taste test. So look at that. It's so happy. So that everybody can see what happens. All we had to do was reheat these. Do you want me? I'm gonna put another one on your plate so the baby can have one, and you can sort of release the steam.
Okay.
All right, but
why don't we taste from that one?
All right. So I'm just gonna. I don't have a knife because you don't really need one. But you just sort of slice it in half. Yep. There are some beautiful cabbage roll guts. Let me just get that in. It's gonna be hot.
Yeah.
That's really good.
That's
really good. And the turkey meat is nice and light. Because a lot of the time turkey rolls can be, or cabbage rolls can be a little bit heavy. But this is like a nice balance between super cozy and not gonna have a brick in your stomach later. So I think we really hit this one on the park.
A success.
Isaac, you want a cabbage roll too? Yeah, we'll get you a cabbage roll.
Yeah.
We really hope that you guys enjoyed this, and hopefully you can make some cabbage rolls yourself. I hope you guys subscribe to the channel, and I think you're supposed to say hit the bell below for more updates. I want to do more tutorials, cooking, needlework. Ben can do some baking tutorials, so you get to see the mysterious cameraman's face. In the meantime, wash your hands, stay safe, and
social distance.
Social distance, but
eat well.
Eat well. Eat well while you're social distancing.